Cash and carry is hit and miss. Like last time we got there, they were shattered on the head. You're having to pick them up.
Oh, really? I haven't gone into the bus. I think I get requested to get tri-tip and you get through when you're coming back.
Price-wise, it's good, but...
Gotta help. Over here at RJ Smokehouse, I think I've already sampled some of the briskets. RJ, did y'all do the?
Tri-tip.
But it was Snake River's products, right?
Absolutely.
Everything. Snake River's one of my sponsors. They're right out here in the west. Matter of fact, they got some ranches in Washington State. Main operations out of Idaho. Best beef you possibly can get, the Wagyu, and that's what we got right here in front of you is the Wagyu. I don't know if this is the gold or the black label, but it's all the black labels. They got high marbling, a lot of marble all the way through. It turns out a great product. They're a little expensive, but the thing about it is you get what you pay for. And you can go to their website, order direct from them. They ship it to you overnight. I always tell people that I'm doing my class. They are expensive, so I always plan when my family's out of town, I order it in and I eat it by my damn self. Because I don't know if any of my kin folks I love enough to buy Wagyu brisket for, but maybe y'all feel different about y'all's family. So, but they're great. They're great products. We've got their Wagyu brisket here. We've got their tri-tip. They also do pork, carabinda pork, and we got one of their pork loins. Brisket is always considered probably to most barbecuers, especially when they're first getting into barbecuing. Brisket is probably the hardest thing for them to conquer. The pork, it's easy to figure out. Chicken especially, the ribs, but the brisket is something that always is challenging. With a brisket, the reason it's a challenge is it's a working muscle. On the cow, it's up in the chest. And they tell it's 80% of the weight of that cow. So there's a lot of working on it. So it's going to have a lot of developed muscle in there, which is tough. But another thing is, this brisket is actually two pieces of meat. You got the flat, F-L-A-T, that's right up here at the top. Then you got the point, or the decal, which is right here on the bottom. And basically what you got a section of membrane right through here and fat that connects them both. And then I'm going to show you in a minute when we start trimming it and getting the fat off where I want the fat to be off. It's really got different grains running. Where the grain of this flat's running this way, the grain of that point on the bottom is going to be running a different way. So the challenge is there to be able to get both of those sections broken down, the proteins broken down to where it's tender, melt in your mouth. And that's always been the challenge. And I'm going to show you some things that I do. First thing you got to always remember that your seasoning or your rubs does not stick to fat or membrane. So you got to get that removed. If that's where you want bark, where you want crust, you got to make sure you remove that fat or the membrane where your rub and seasoning will adhere and where it will caramelize and make a good crust. Because not only do we want it moist and juicy, we all look for that crust on the outside of great barbecue. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this brisket and I want to get all this fat off, but I don't want to gouge down in there making canals. This is a high dollar brisket. I don't care if it's the cheapest thing you got. You don't want to botch it up. Just don't make a hot mess out of it. I'm right-handed, so I take my left hand and I hold up the bottom of that point like that, and I keep the blade flat, just like that right there. And I take that fat off. Now, what I can't get by doing this, I leave it alone. Like that right there, I'm not going to go down there and start wheeling out a canal. A couple of reasons why not. One thing, it makes it look ugly. Next thing, that's in the grain. And when I slice, I'm going to slice against the grain. Either with a scallop blade, serrated blade, or just a regular straight edge blade, doesn't matter. When I start slicing, if it's scalloped or serrated, it's liable to grab right there and just tear the top. It's not going to affect the flavor one bit. It's just going to look bad. But we always want our barbecue to look as good as it tastes. So always take the time to do it right. If anybody got any questions, y'all ask them. Because you may not never see me again. Unless you come to Unadilla to the class. How many of y'all know I'm the mayor of my city? The barbecue mayor. Well, I would say one thing about RJ Smokehouse. Y'all got some sharp knives, and that's a good thing. It ain't nothing worse than get out trying to with a butter knife. That's aggravates you. You got some sharp blades, that's a good thing. What I'm using here is probably about a 8 or 9 inch boning knife. Sam, do you sell knives?
Not yet. We're waiting for the Myron Mixon knife collection to come out.
You ain't gonna have to wait long.
Myron, you cook that fat side up or down?
You from Texas?
No.
I cook it fat side down. See, we don't have, in Georgia, we don't have the magic Texas briskets where all that's supposed to melt all the way through to the other side of that brisket. And I love folks from Texas. They got great barbecue down there, but I listen to some, and not all Texans don't tell you that. And a lot of them do cook them fat cap up because the heat of their smokers comes from the top down, the way it rolls. But my heat comes from the bottom, so I always cook fat cap down so that fat will protect what I care about, which is up here where the flat's at. I do all my meats that way, whether it's pork butts, even on this pork loin here. I'm not going to remove much of this fat on this pork loin because I'm going to cook it fat down. Heat comes up from my smokers from the bottom like most do, and that helps protect what I care about, which is going to be the leaner portions up here. It's about good enough. A lot of this is going to render out. Now, we're going to make burnt ends, and we're going to make slices out of this one brisket. Slices, of course, is going to come from the flat, F-L-A-T. Now, on my burnt ends, which is right here, this point runs down to about right midway and tapers away. It don't run the whole length of this brisket. So it's going to taper about right here, about halfway. So I'm just going to score it, and I'm going to start right here and start cleaning back. How many of y'all gonna barbecue today?
Does it ever change as far as fat side down or fat side up, depending on what smoker you use? Does it matter if I can use your H2O or the
H2O for sure is going fat side down. All my smokers are made where the heat's coming from the bottom, and 99% of the other smokers out here are. But you got some that I say custom smokers where they'll have the chamber or have a tube where it brings it up and around. And you always got to look at that. I mean, but most retail smokers you buy here today, and even the ones that most people build in their backyard, they're all heated from the bottom.
yes?
The thing about it is the fat, all of the fat, flavor, moisture, high fat content makes a brisket better. It makes any meat better. But the fat content you're worried about is what's down in it. This fat right here, and I ain't making fun of nobody, I'm just telling you fact. Y'all see how thick that is? How many of y'all really believe, whether you're cooking a 4-hour brisket like I cook, or cooking it for 12 hours, that fat is going to melt through that brisket and come out that other side? How many of y'all think that's going to happen? It ain't going to happen. None of that's going to melt in there. The fat that's in it is what you're going to taste, period. Now, some may melt, but it's going to run over the sides. Now, the reason I'm removing the fat, to me, a good burn end is a double-sided piece of bark, a little cube like that. Burn ends can only come from the point. The point right here is the fattiest section of this whole brisket. And it's got to have that spongy flavor or spongy texture to it to be a good burn end. You can take flat, the F-L-A-T, and you can cube it up, but that ain't a burn end. All you got is cubed up flat. I see people a lot of times, they'll say, man, I took flat and I made burn ends out of it. No, you did not. You just made some cubed flat. The only place that you get burn ends is from the point. Let me show y'all something. Let's get this out of the way we can see. Around and goes down the midway. I do not remove that wedge. I do not remove that wedge. I feel like the more you trim away from this brisket, the more area you lose for moisture to go away. I feel like most of my slices, your best slices, I'm talking about competition now. I know a lot of cook teams go in there and they cut it all down to 6 inches like that and they cook in that one little section. I don't do that. I cook the whole brisket. After I get it done and get ready to slice, then I measure, take my ruler and measure out that section and slice it. But I wait and leave it all intact because I feel like it's holding that moisture in that meat. And you don't need to lose no moisture in any meat, and surely not on beef. Beef dries out that fast. I don't care if it's Wagyu or if it's just choice. So I don't trim away none of that. I leave it intact. My slices, most of the good ones, are gonna come right here. Now, I'm a big believer in injecting. I love to inject. Now on pork, when you're injecting, it's not necessarily any rhyme or reason to it. You really don't have a grain running in that pork that you can actually see that makes a difference, so you can inject anywhere you want to. For me, on a brisket, always inject with the grain. Whatever you're injecting with, and what we got going on here is in the cookbook. There's the ingredients. You can order those ingredients from Amazon. Follow those recipes. But always inject with that grain. And I look at it like a checkerboard with about 3/4 inch squares. And I go right along there just like that. I'm injecting in every one of those squares with the grain all the way down. The recipe does about 32 ounces. I like to use about 16 on this side, and we'll use 16 on the point. I always take my left hand and hold over it, just like that right there, to keep it from where it don't get me in the eye, or don't hit my neighbor in the eye, because that's salty, which that would be funny as hell now to see somebody get salt in their eye. But they might want to get over there and roll away in the gravel if you did that to them and then laugh. So I would just suggest take your left hand, if you're right-handed and you're injecting, just cover it over, keep it from squirting back on you or your neighbor. Do the same thing here on the point now. Y'all can ask questions now. You ain't got to be a square doing.
Do you ever separate the point and the flat and cook them separately?
I never do.
Right.
I always leave them. Now, part of my process, and we're going to go through that, after I get it done, I remove the point then, and then all I got to do is brown it up on one side. Then I got my double-sided. it gets back to the same thing. I'm going to use an analogy here. A whole chicken is the moistest piece of chicken, the whole bird, cooking it whole. Whether you're doing it bear can style or just sitting there tucking him or whatever, just keeping him intact. But every time you put a blade on that bird, whether you're cutting the half out or quartering it, every time you're leaving more surface area for moisture to leave. The same thing pertains to here. The more cuts you start making to it, the more surface area you're leaving for moisture to leave a piece of meat. You know, I love chicken thighs. I love legs. They look great. We cook up thighs and legs for competitions. But the most moist piece of chicken you'll ever eat is cooking a whole bird. So when I cook chicken, I cook whole birds for the house. If that's what we're eating, I cook whole birds. Same way with the brisket. I never part it up.
You spatchcock the bird?
You spatchcock if you want to. You like spitting? Yes. Yes. That's not going to hurt because all you're doing is just splitting a bone. You're not really cutting the skin.
You're pretty famous for the cupcake chicken. You separate there and put them still in the pans, muffin pans?
You know what? The cupcake chicken is made with thighs.
Yes.
We use the chicken thighs. And all that was about, when I first designed that, was about making them all the same shape.
Yes.
And for uniformity in the box, for turning for judges. But I tell you what, that's a cool thing to do in your backyard or whatever. It impresses your friends, because that's the whole idea, to be the king or queen of the damn cul-de-sac or subdivision. Because I'm not joking. All that stuff about the most toys win. Well, that's true. I mean, you want to outdo who's ever next door to you. I mean, when you fire your pet off, you want to do better than that guy's doing. I do. That's what it's all about. Ego. All right, we got our injection done. Now it's time to apply the rub. I do not apply my rub to any of my meat, ribs, chicken, pork, brisket, until about an hour before they go on the smoker. How many of y'all ever pre-season ribs the night before and then go out there and get them out of the pan and throw them on the smoker the next morning? How much liquid's in the bottom of that pan? How many folks think you need to be losing liquid out of your ribs? It's anybody's ribs, not just Myron's. Every rubs. Every rub has got salt. Salt draws liquid out. So I wait for an hour, or you can wait less than that, 30 minutes. Right before it's going on that smoke, I put my rubs on. That's when they go on. I don't let them sit overnight. I don't let them sit at a contest when I'm prepping meat. We get through prepping like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, go to the cook's meeting, we go back to the room, eat, go to bed, get about 8 hours, get back up at 3, light the fire at 4. But my briskets, my pork, my chicken, my ribs don't have any seasoning on it till we get down to the cook site. I don't season them and let them sit overnight. All right, we're going to act like we're getting ready to put them on because we are going to are we going to cook this today?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. What I like to do, you can take any kind of oil you want to. We got virgin olive oil, you can take peanut oil, you can take whatever oil you like. Got to be careful peanut oil. You got a lot of folks now that's allergic to peanuts and stuff. You got to be careful with it. I like peanut oil for the simple, it's got a higher burn range. Don't take very much. All that olive oil's for is to help the seasoning adhere, help that rub stick. Plus, olive oil or any oil gives it a better mahogany color to me. So we're going to use a couple of things here.
What about taking a paste with the olive oil and the rub before you?
I ain't never done that.
That's what I do, Pete.
You've done that? Does it work good? How many world championships you want? I'm sure it works, guys. You can do that. So I can't be a smart. Everybody said, he didn't seem like he's such a smart ass he's here on TV. Yes, he is. Yeah, you can do that, I'm sure. We're going to do 2 things here. We got my hickory seasoning. I like to put a good medium coat on it. So I'm very careful not to waste it. Now, if y'all buying this from Sam and you like my stuff and we'll be rebuying, I want you to do it like this. That's how I want you to do it. I want you to waste as much of it as you can waste. All right, we got it. You see how I'm doing that? I'm just pushing it in. don't do like this. Don't actually rub it. If you rub it like this, you're gonna roll the rub from back here and roll it onto that side. You're gonna thin it out, thicken it here. It's not gonna be even. So all I do is just push it down. Next thing we're gonna do is take some of my hickory salt. Beef can take salt. It can take salt and it can take pepper, and it needs it. So I'm gonna go in with about the same coating of the hickory salt. Let me tell you what else this hickory salt's good on. Hickory Ritas. Margaritas, and use as your margarita salt. Damn it, man. That's good.
Do you ever pour the rub into your hand and then put it on?
No.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna roll over, and I do the flat or the top. I do it last. And I bring this up a lot in my classes. You know why I do it last? Because I care about this portion more than any of it, because I want it to look the best. You know, it don't matter if I switch it around and do the other, but I want it to look the best. You want it to look as good as it tastes. So we're gonna do the same steps.
Now you left a lot of fat on the other bottom side of the flat.
Right.
You didn't trim any of that off. So that's all right.
That's fine, because I want it there to protect
The bottom. Yeah.
this part.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna remove that before we eat it anyway.
Got it.
Now I can eat the fat. A lot of folks don't like it, but I take it off before we slice and put it in the box and serve it at the restaurant or whatever we're doing. Doing our hickory rub. And by the way, it's MSG free.
Thank you.
I mean, I do two different lines. All my rubs used to be all with MSG. Then we started doing MSG free. They've all been gluten free. None of them doesn't have any gluten in them. But I got some competition teams. They won't use it unless it's got MSG in it. So I keep everybody happy. That's what I do. Every day of my life, I wake up, and my goal is to bring joy and happiness to at least one person. Well, guess what? Today is y'all's day. All right, we got our hickory salt. Doing the same thing. If I can get RJ's over here, I'm going to hand it off to him and let him go in and put it on the smoker. Now, I like to cook mine at 300 degrees for 2 hours out in the smoke. After 2 hours, I pan it, cover it with foil. And then I finish it out until I get 205 degrees internal right there. That's where I put my needle at. Check it, right there. Cook it at 300, generally takes you 2 to 3 more hours. So you're looking at a 4 to 5 hour total cook time to cook this brisket, which weighs about probably 15, 16 pounds. Always got to let it rest. Always got to let it rest 2 to 4 hours. But we're going to talk about the steps on it after we get over here doing some other stuff. You got it?
Yes, sir.
There you go, brother.
You want pepper on there too or not?
You good? Go ahead and throw them on there. Now, we're talking about getting him done. All right, once that brisket gets to that 205 degrees, after 2 hours in the smoke, I don't temp it. I don't do, but generally that temp range is like 125 degrees, and then we pan it. But I always go by time, because I know cooking at 300, it's done took enough smoke, it's at that point where it needs to be, and I'll go over and I put it in my pan and I cover it tight with foil. And I put it back on that smoker, and I'm cooking for another 2 to 3 hours. After 2 more hours on the smoker, I'll raise the foil up and I probe. And if it's at 205 degrees, I lock it down. If you've got the Cambros, the holding boxes, I put it in it, or I take a regular old moving blanket that you can get for $5 in Northern Tool or Harbor Freight. I got to lay it on the table and I cover it up and I let it rest at least 2 hours.
Coolers work good for that.
But you got to be careful. Coolers and Cambros, you got to burp them. If you don't go buy a blanket, works best. Let me tell you why. You don't have to burp, but it still keeps it hot, but it lets it rest. Resting is as important as any part of the cooking process. When that piece of meat's cooking, it's rendering. It's rendering. It's pushing out blood. It's pushing out fat. Pushing out injection if you got any of it in there. But when you let it rest, It's letting all that slow down and starts drawing all that flavor back in. What happens when you cook a great, good old 2-inch ribeye, throw it on your plate and cut it right then? What happens? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to let it rest about 5 minutes and let it start sucking all that back in while all that flavor stays in that piece of meat. Brisket's no different. So you gotta let it rest. Now, let's just say after 2 hours, we let it rest for a little while. I'll walk over there and I'll grab that brisket, bring it back over to my cutting board, and I'm gonna flip it upside down. I'm gonna reach over there, I'm gonna cut that point off. I'm gonna feel that knife fall in, go along that membrane and that fat, and I'm gonna pop it off. And while I got this pan over here with all my au jus, all my liquid, I'm gonna pour it in my grease separators. Little old grease separators.
Myron, you want brisket do all that?
You got all that? You got a grease separator?
Don't have it.
Well, let's just do the magic then, since you ain't got the grease. Well, you got the au jus, bring the au jus up here.
Let me grab that board and I'll get you a fresh board and a brisket.
That's great.
Honorary black
Let's
shirt.
give RJ's a big hand. That'd been awesome. That's making it easy for me. Awesome. But no, we're gonna bring it out and we'll show you. But what I do, I pour that au jus in that pan while we're waiting. Yeah. Then I put the flat back in there, cover it up with foil, and put it back under the blanket. Now I got the au jus over here separating. I want to get all the oil floating to the top, the good stuff I want to keep, because I'm going to use that as my dip for my slices and my burnt ends. Now I got this section over here we call the point. It's got bark on one side so far. I flip it upside down, I clean that fat off, and I hit it lightly with the hickory rub. I don't put any more hickory salt on it because I done went from something that thick to that thick, and it don't need any more salt. It looks sharp. It's like something you take on Naked and Afraid. What'd you bring with you? I brought this RJ's big old machete. Y'all ever watch Naked and Afraid? Did you know they don't win $1 for doing that? They do it just for the sake of being able to say they accomplished it.
That's messed up.
That is crazy. I can't stand South Georgia gnats and mosquitoes. I sure as hell ain't gonna have one of them things that lay up under your skin and the worms.
Few logs short of a full
I
load.
ain't doing it. I ain't doing it.
You don't like leaving the probe in the meat part in the cooker then?
Do what?
Yeah, I have like a remote probe.
You can do that. You can put the remote probe there. Does that look good? Now that's the au jus we're talking about. See it? You run that through your grease separator. Now RJ does his a little bit different. He trimmed his up a little more than what I would. He's already got some good bark already on his, the way he done it. But what I would do, I'd have left that intact. I'd have took that fat off, put the rub on, and I'd have walked over to that smoker and I'd have put new rub side down for about another hour, hour and a half. Then I got bark on both sides.
300? Let's do 300 then for.
Yeah, I've run it the whole time. I don't never back it down. When I'm cooking briskets or butts, I'm running both at 300. Ribs and chicken, I do at 275. See what we got going on now. Always cut across the grain. I saw your mouth water when I did that.
Thank you, sir.
Got good smoke on it. The au jus is awesome. Easy to dance to. I give it a 10. It's got a good smoke ring on it too.
It's that gravity fed smoker here.
Exactly right. We take credit for everything that we do and for some stuff we don't do. Somebody asked me a while ago about they couldn't believe I was telling them something, and I said, I don't lie. The only time that I will lie is when it helps me or some of my friends get out of trouble.
Myron, who's your favorite person to beat on the circuit besides Tuffy?
Chris Lilly. And I like Chris, but I like to beat him too. But he'll tell you the same thing about me. Alpha males don't get along well. They start be biting each other in the hind legs.
Could you say what you do with the point again to make the bird ends?
Oh, I'm fixing to show you just a second.
Great.
Let me slice these up where y'all can sample some of this. Unless y'all don't want to eat none of it.
Oh no, they don't need it. It's horrible.
We'll take it on back.
It's horrible.
Y'all bring me a Ziploc, y'all can take it on home.
We don't have women and children first in Oregon.
Excuse me.
Is everybody for sale? Have that half hour right there. Is everybody for the sale, ain't it?
Heavenly Father, everything else that we get to your fast is the
All
lowest.
for yourself.
Let's do this where I'm gonna have so much liquid in there. What they're doing is putting it through a test.
Yeah, quality control on that one.
Myron, is there any talk about a new pitmaster starting up again?
We've done some, we're fixing to do some pilots for food, and we're also doing some pilots for Netflix.
Very good.
Shows are very similar, they would call something different. I'm gonna hit these again with a little bit of the hickory salt. So when y'all taste it, that you'll know what I'm doing. Oh, y'all try that right there. Now on the point, what I would have done is when I removed this point, I'd have cleaned it off where it was stayed attached. I'd have applied just a little bit of the hickory rub. I would have put in hickory salt because you already got it on this side. And you went from a piece like that, now you're down to here. Stayed on there about an hour and a half to get the bark on the other side.
Another hour and a half.
Yes.
At 300.
Yep, they ain't no need of.
Is it panned and foiled or just?
No, it's laying on the rack.
Okay.
All right, you're sitting here looking at your grain. What you did is a little different, but you'll still do the same here. Got your grain running to me to y'all. You're gonna go and cut with the grain, just like that. And it would turn out better if you did start to finish the same way I just described to you when we were prepping. All right, when you get ready to make the cubes, you just turn them around and you cut crossways at it. Just like that.
So when you took the internal temperature 205, is that in the flat?
It's right at the point.
It's in the point.
It's right there at the point where the point meets the flat.
Okay.
It's right there in that area.
Okay.
These need a little more time. Good flavor though. That was good. Anybody got any questions? We're gonna take a break and we'll come back. We'll prep these pork loins.